this lesson, we're going to talk about colors in Photoshop and how we can handle them. What are the tools that can help us to work with colors? In the previous lesson, we worked with layers and we also work a little bit with colors and blending. And also we talk about framing and other features that we have with layers like masking and so on. So we're going to continue in this lesson and we're going to concentrate more on colors. Now we need a colorful image, but well, the important is that we have like not a black and white image. We can make it black and white though, but I'm going to choose here a picture that contains a little bit of color so we can work with that. So I find this picture here that has a little bit of red and blue and yellow, and we can work with this and see how we can modify them. Now we talked about the move and the selection tools, and also how we can crop and how we can create the frame. Now the next tool here is the eyedropper tool, or color picker. So with this one here, I can click on a pixel in the image and I can get the color that is right there. Now the color will be shown down here. These two are the foreground and the background color. And if I click on this little black and white button, this is the default. So by default, you have the black as a foreground color and the white as a background color. You can also switch them by clicking on these arrows. Now this will be used in many situations in Photoshop. First of all, when you use the brush. So if I go down here and select the brush tool and I start to brush on the image, well, that's going to be black. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually converting those pixels, whatever color they are, they will be turned into black. So this is because I'm working with an image and because this is a background. Now, if I go back with Ctrl Z, I can always go back in this session, and not if I close and reopen. So if I do something like this and then save and then close and reopen, I cannot go back. I will lose those pixels unless I have like the original photo somewhere. So be careful. And so if I double click here and I create something like this, also they're gonna go and they're gonna substitute those pixels there. Now, the only way I can save the original image is to create a layer and paint on that layer. So these are now two separated parts, and so the original image is safe. And also, I'm gonna show you, let me just delete this. So if you're still in this session, and I'm gonna increase the size here of the brush, then we're gonna talk about brush later. And so if I paint like this, well, if I use the eraser tool, which is down here, so you can see these are all like different types of brush that we're gonna see. So this is the eraser, simple eraser tool. Now, if I erase this, you can see that it's gonna erase both the brush and the pixel of the image. So I'm seeing here the background, which is transparent. So when I delete like this, I'm deleting the pixels. I'm not like retrieving the original image that's like underneath there. The only way to do that is to use another really important feature, which is the brush tool here, the history brush tool right here. So with this one here, if I paint, I can retrieve the original image. So this is basically to undo whatever we've done with the pixels instead of doing just edit and undo history, which is another option. You can do it with the brush. So I can undo only parts of these, and it's gonna look as I'm erasing, but it's not an eraser. It's just like turning back time. And this is also using the history panel, which we talked about some few lessons ago. So if I go up here, this is the history panel where I can go back and forward like this, and I can save a status. So let's say that I want to save this status right here. So I click on this snapshot icon. So create new snapshot, and this is gonna save this state. So I can either work with the history panel and the history brush using this original image, or I can take this as an original image. So let's say that I brush again. Let's change the color here. So click on the foreground color, get another color, and then I start to paint with this other color on the image. Well, that's gonna, you see here, it's not gonna do anything because I'm in the history brush. But right now my history is right here. So to brush with the color, I need the standard brush. And now I am painting on this snapshot right here. So I'm able to go back to the original image, just like I used more layers here. Or I can take this snapshot and go back to this snapshot. Or I can go to the brush that I've just applied, this red brush, and I can also go again with the history brush and delete part of this brush. So you can use this snapshot with the brushing like we are doing with colors, but you can use it with anything that it goes in the history panel. And you can also, of course, delete some steps, and you could also use the history brush on one of these steps. So you can retrieve these steps. Now, let me go back to the original state, this original image. You can also delete the snapshots and just go back to the original state and just override whatever you have done so far. So be careful again when you paint on the original image. If you want to save, just create a new state or create new layer and paint on that layer. So with the color picker or eyedropper tool, I can just click here and get whatever color is in the image. You can also click again here in the foreground or the background, and you can continue refining the color that you are looking for. So you can use different types of selectors here. And for example, this is the new color and this is the current. And you have different types. So you have like this hue, and this is like saturation, and then these other ones. And you have RGB or CM epsilon K. So this is the resulting numbers or parameters to get that color perhaps in another application. And you can also use this hexadecimal code. So if you copy and paste this, right click copy, and you can bring it into whatever other application that uses RGB or hexadecimal values. You can also check here for the web colors. So you can select just the web colors, or you can go here to the color libraries and you can select from these libraries whatever colors there are right here. So I can select this, and now it's in my foreground color. So I can use this to again brush or do other operations with this. Now on the top left also we can select the color with this color selector. We can go into the swatches. We already have a lot of folders here containing a lot of swatches that you can use. So you can select here and just brush, or you can create your own. You can click on this little button and call this like a green custom, and that's gonna go in your customized folder. So let's create also a customized folder. I'm gonna call this JBD custom, and there we go. So now I can bring my swatches in here. I can use, for example, the swatches also from here, from up here, or I can create a new one. So that's gonna be my green, or I can go here, for example, again with the color picker, get this red and add it. So my red, and then here, and that's gonna be plus my blue, and so on. So you can see they're also gonna appear in the libraries. So as uh, swatches that you can reuse. So you have all these presets, or you can create your own customized folders to save your colors and reuse it many times. And you can select the color from here. You also have the 3D material eyedropper tool for 3D, but we're going to talk about this later, and color sampler tool. So if I click here with this you see these little arrows, they're gonna sample different colors and they're gonna give you the information. And if you hold control, you have like the possibility to move these, or click alt and delete it. There you go. So you can retrieve like and you know, save these colors and you can get information. You can also use a ruler here that's going to give you the distance in terms of pixels and the position here and the rotation. And you can also like move this around and use it to straighten the layer that you're working in. So it's kind of similar to the cropping tool. So if I do like this, I can straighten. Well, I need to select the correct layer, which is this other one. And then, well, it doesn't activate, so I just need to double click and unlock this layer. So now let's make it straighten, and you can see it's gonna make it straight if you want. So it's another straighten tool. And then you have the notes, so I can place like a note here for my client or my colleague to, I don't know, leave a note for whatever reason. And I can also delete the note, or I can add more notes for whoever is interested to read those. And then you can also place some numbers here. So like I can place like number 1, 2, 3, and then I can say, okay, with the notes, that's gonna be something, that's gonna be another. So it's just, you know, leaving some notes and information on the image. Now let's move on, and we'll talk about these other tools later, but these will all change the pixels in the image. So they all work with pixels, and especially the brush again, and the eraser. And then we have also the possibility to do fill or paint bucket tool, and you also have the gradient tool. But just to show you also, these are all tools that we can use with colors, and we're gonna see these also later. So just quickly, I want to show you the paint bucket because it's really easy. Now, when you have an empty layer like this and you paint, the paint bucket is gonna like override everything. And let me change color here. I want to get like a green. So it's only gonna fill except this part right here, which already contains some pixels. But if I increase the tolerance, tolerance is really important. If I set this to be the highest, so 255, it means it's gonna override anything. So especially if I click here, you see. Otherwise, if I decrease the tolerance, let's say to 10, and click here, you see it's only filling some areas. So let's increase this to 50, and then it's gonna fill more and more. So 255 is kind of the it's gonna fill everything up like this. And then with this layer that it's now above the previous one, I can use blending layers already. We already saw this, so we can play with a lot of different effects like inverting or creating a more intense color. Oh, this is really nice actually, color burn. It's really a nice effect. And then you can decrease like the power using the opacity. So it's just a way to do also color correction or color alteration. Now I can also use the original image and fill the original image. So this is 255. If I decrease this, let's say to 100 and click, you can see it's only gonna fill that particular color. Now this is working similarly to the magic wand. So they both use tolerance. So if I click here, for example, I want to get like only those reds, I can decrease the tolerance, select only the contiguous um, pixels, and then perhaps I can click here. As you see, it's only selecting this red, and I can click on the plus and select more. And a similar mechanism also we can find it here in the quick selection, which we already explored previously. So I can quickly select based on the color, the intensity of that pixel, and then I can deselect right here. So I can isolate parts of the image. And in that case, if I work with whatever tool, for example, with the brush, I can only brush in that area. or I can invert the selection and protect that area from being painted. So selection, again, are still really, really important to uh, refine and, guide some of these effects that we're using. So now if I use the fill, it will only fill on that part of the image. And if I use another layer for this, again, I can do some color correction. So I select this new layer and I can just use this to do color correction, but only on that part of the image, and perhaps also change the color. And the beauty of this is that if I deselect, I can always turn off and on this layer. So it's a great way to, change some specific colors. Now, following down, we have some other color correction tools we're gonna talk about later. And then we have vector graphics tool, like the pen tool and the shapes and the text. And then we have the hand tool, which we can use also rotate. So these are like hidden um, tools that we can use. And I can fix this up here as usual. We have some extra parameters here, like reset view or whatever. And then finally, here we have the quick mask also, which we talked about previously. And then here we can switch type of view. So this is full screen. And then I can exit with the ESC key. I can exit the full screen. And then we have these three dots. Now, these three dots are a button to customize the edit toolbar. And you can see I've already customized it a little bit. So essentially here you can let's restore this to default. So you can see that the default toolbar is kind of shorter. So here I've decided to take some of these and bring it out. So to have an extra button here on the toolbar. So you can customize your toolbar. And for example, I like these three different advanced selection tools to be visible. So this is the object selection, the quick selection, the magic one. So I want them all to be visible. And for example, also let me see here, also the history brush perhaps can be really useful, and the eraser, and then the gradient tool and the paint bucket, so you can push up the paint bucket to be visible. So as long as you have space in this toolbar, you can continue to add extra buttons that will actually let you access the various tools. So we can see these all the tools available. And then you can also turn this mask, quick mask on and off, or this other button, or the foreground and background if you want. And also the customized. So once you're ready, you can just save presets also. And you can see I've saved this mine, so I can always load a preset anytime that I've saved. When I'm done, I can just exit and keep it like this, or I can restore the defaults. I'm just gonna keep it like this and say done. So you have a lot of ways to work with colors with these tools, but the main one are the brush and the fill, and then we have gradient. We also have like this art history brush, which is really nice, but it's kind of more artistic. And be careful because I was in a hidden layer, so you need to be on a layer that is visible. So it's like creating strokes like oil painting or something, and you can use this, or you can just go back again with the history brush. I can delete these, just increase the size to delete everything like quicker. And I'm just gonna like decrease a little bit the size here. Okay, and well, let's move on. Another one that I want to show you right away is the color replacement tool, which is again working with colors. So with this one here, you see here I have a size again, and then I have hue, saturation, color, luminosity. And these work with whatever I have selected in here. So let's say that I want a yellow. Let me just go like deactivate the RGB colors. I'm gonna use this. So let's say I want, yeah, I wanna use a yellow. So if I click here, well, what it's gonna do is use this color to color, but it also is gonna overlap the original color. So yeah, it's gonna be yellow, but not like perfectly yellow. It's gonna be, a little bit influenced by the rest of the color. So if I do U, well, you can see it's gonna be like a little bit different. And let's see if I use the saturation. So you see it's doing something now pretty different. And luminosity, well, there's a big difference here. Now, you can also adjust these parameters. So if you say discontiguous is going to select any pixels, contiguous is only going to select the nearby pixels, and find edge will try to define an edge wherever you are painting. Now, also tolerance here is really important in order to paint on everything or just an area, you see. So it's leaving some areas. And let's change this to U. Maybe I want to change also let's make it white. Okay, so you can see it's kind of changing it in black, and also with the saturation, it's gonna make it black. So it's really depends on what color you select here and how it's gonna mix with the other color. There you go. So we have a purple, and also this is a continuous sampling, which means that each time I go in a different part, it's gonna consider that new pixel color and it's gonna change that also. Otherwise, if you want to stay in a limited area, you can use the sampling once. So I just click once, and that's gonna be the color that is gonna be sampled. So you can see it's now restricted only to some areas. And again, if I increase the tolerance, it's gonna get more and more areas like this. So if I paint on the other part of the image, it's not gonna be affected by this because I've selected the sampling once and the find edges, but also the contiguous will be good. And discontiguous is when you're gonna jump from another part of the image that contains that color like that. So if you want to restrict the most, you should use continuous and sampling once. And also you can use the background swatch. So if I like click here and I select this red in the sampling, and I want to substitute it with the purple, there you go. So I'm just going to substitute that red. And if I want to substitute more, again, I need to increase the tolerance. There you go. If I want to substitute less, I decrease the tolerance. And that's another really interesting tool. And again, play around here and, experiment with that. And I'm going to show you other brushes later. Now we can also go in the menus here. So for example, if we have a menu for selection. So we talked about the tools in selection, but we also have this menu. So we can select all the image, the whole image. We can select all layers, deselect layers, find layers right here, isolate layers like this. So you need to turn off then the filter here. And then we have, we can do a new fill layer with a solid color gradient partner. We already see this previously. We saw this previously. And also we have adjustment layers that we already saw from here. So you can create a new adjustment layer like brightness and contrast, and you can work with this and adjust it. So again, color correction, color alteration, but using layers. Now, it's better to use this color correction layer or from here. So let's do also levels are really useful with this uh, diagram, and then we can also create a group with all the adjustment layers, or we can use curves also, really nice. And you can use black and white if you want to make everything black and white, but you want to decide how the red are going to look like, or how the yellow going to look like, and how the green are going to look like. and all the other colors, the cyan, the blue. So remember the pants were blue, so I can make it darker, I can make it brighter, and then I can turn them on and off. So this is why adjustment layers are really handy. And then you have photo filter. So let's turn everything off. So just I want to keep brightness constant. Photo filter, like a warmer color here. You can increase the density. You can make this really, extreme. So a lot of ways to work with color here. And then you have also invert. You have posterize. Then you have threshold, gradient map, other. Well, this one also selective color. So you can select, for example, the red and work only with the red, or you can work only with the greens or with the blues and affect only the blue parts of the image and so on. So you can play a lot again with colors here with all these adjustment layers. And it's better to work with these rather than use the image adjustment and then this one here, because this will go directly on the pixels of the image. So when you say, for example, okay, well, that's gonna be in the image is non-reversible. So they're gonna, uh, you know, change those colors in the pixels in the original image, and you cannot retrieve the original so fast as when you're using the adjustment layers. So again, it's better to work with adjustment layers rather than use these adjustment actions right here. So I was talking about selection, so I'm going to go back to select. And if you go down, you see also the color range. So you can select a color range in the image. So if I click here, you see this is the red. And you can increase, decrease the fuzziness. So you see here the range. So by adjusting this, you can select that area. And if you want here, you have a preview also, and you can check also the mask, and you can save these. You can add other colors to the selection. So say I want to add the blue parts also. And basically when you finish, you say, oh, you can subtract also to the selection. You can subtract like other types of color. And when you finish, you can say okay, and that's going to select only that particular color in the image. So it's another way to select, and then once you select it, again, you can brush, you can fill, and work only on that selected area. And or you can go to the mask and see it like this, and you can proceed with the mask with the other tools that we already saw previously. So it's another way to select, and in this case is selecting using color. And also if you go back to image, you have other features here working with colors. So if you go all the way down, you find also match color, replace color. For example, if I use replace color and I select this red, I can then adjust the hue of the red. And again, if I change the fuzziness, I can limit that to only a more restricted area. So you can see you can work with saturation. You can make it like more darker or brighter, saturated or more vivid, and you can change the color with the hue. And again, if you do this with a selection, it's going to be better restricted to a particular area. And you can also change completely the color from here. Okay, and that's another way. Again, you can use colors. So these are the most important tools when working with colors. Now you just have to go there and play around with the various tools and features that you saw. And we're gonna stop for this lesson. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated. And if you want to support us, please join the channel as a supporter, and see you in the next video. Check our other courses as well and other videos about graphic design. So thanks for watching. See you in the next.